Hi, it's you with the Italian sports guys. Bada-Boom!
Bada-Bing!
And this is the Brian Scheck State Farm Sports Coverage Show.
For insurance coverage, you go to Brian Scheck. For sports coverage, you come to us, you
Right here to the Italian sports guys, that's right. And we start, of course, with the New Orleans Saints. Huge win, Kyle, last week in the Dome. The place was rocking against the Dallas Cowboys. Big win for us. Second straight without Drew Brees. One of the bigger wins of Sean Payton's career, I think.
Yeah, you hope that you could go 500 through this, Drew Breesless period, if you want to call it that. And the Saints are off to a 2-0 start. So
no Brees.
So you would like to think that they'll do even better than that. It was really a reversal of last year's game against the Cowboys, where we went to Dallas and they kind of out-physicaled us a little bit. Yeah. We were the road favorites. Went there and lost 13-10, I believe. And just a reversal this week. They came here and the Saints put it on them. It was a physical football game. It was great to watch, and Will Lutz was money.
Yeah, give this team credit. You know, they got a lot of criticism last year for this game against Dallas for being out-physical, and they really took the punch to them, I think, in this ball game. Also, we mentioned Sean Payton, 2 straight wins again without Drew Brees, just rallying this team around Teddy Bridgewater. I thought this defense, what was really exciting to me was this defense, they've shown signs where they maybe rise to that next level, maybe get to that top 10 defense. We've seen flashes. I thought this was the most complete performance.
Well, you look at that starting defensive line, you got some number 1 draft choices littered throughout, and they really came to play on Sunday night. It was a ruckus atmosphere, but I thought they really set the tone by shutting down Dallas's vaunted running game. Yeah. They've been averaging over, I think, 170-something yards a game. The Saints held them to 45 yards rushing. Unbelievable performance, and I thought Demario Davis was once again standout.
Yeah, the stats were tremendous. 257 total yards for Dallas, and a lot of that came in that last drive, that last mop-up drive. 4 for 10 on third down. He did a nice job there, third down situations. Only 15 first downs. You mentioned Elliott, 18 for 35, or only 1.9 average. That's the second worst game in terms of average yards per carry in his career, so tremendous job there. And I thought, on the other side of the ball, give the Saints credit. I thought they got enough of a consistent running game, 4.3 yards a carry and 117 yards, specifically in the second half where they had to keep moving the chains.
Yeah, that was something that you were kind of concerned about. Again, last year we couldn't run the ball on those guys, and Sunday night we did. And I thought Alvin Kamara was special once again. So tremendous with his balance and ability to break tackles. And I thought that was a difference in the game. Got some penalties they have to clean up still.
Yeah.
So you had even more yardage on the ground. Yeah. A couple of runs that got called back, and then a nice one by Teddy Bridgewater that got called back. But all in all, you don't want to find a whole lot of fault with a victory like that.
Yeah, Sean Payton always seems to go back to a couple of stats when he talks in the post-game press conferences. Number 1, time of possession, 36-24, really impressive. The turnover battle, 3-1, and again, we mentioned the running game. You win those kind of stats, you usually win ball games.
Yeah, I mean, Von Bell himself had 2 fumble recoveries and one that he caused, and it was a defensive-led, dare I say, safety-led victory. Yeah. Going down to that final play where you had Chauncey Gardner-Johnson put the pressure on Dak Prescott.
Great defensive call by Dennis Allen.
Delayed blitz, and he came right at him and just went right into the chest, didn't go high on him where there was no chance that there was going to be a penalty called. And I don't know if you call it redemption, but a great feel-good moment for Marcus Williams to come down to it. And leave it to Marcus Williams on a play where you're instructed to knock the ball down, he catches it. Yeah, right. But all in all, a great moment for him, and it was not lost on the eyes of the Saints fans, that's for sure.
Yeah, really.
Or his teammates.
I do want to give a shout-out to the safeties. We've knocked them a little bit for a few plays here and there, letting guys get behind them, big plays. We talked about cutting down on the big plays, and I thought they did a good job of that. Marcus Williams, 89.3 grade. According to Pro Football Focus, he would be in one of their all-pro honorable mentions at the season ended today, so very impressive grade overall. And Von Bell, you mentioned the turnovers. He graded a 92.1. I think he was the top-rated safety last week for all of the NFL. So very impressive work by the safeties. And some other guys, too, were really stellar on defense.
I thought Marshawn Lattimore shut down Amari Cooper.
Yeah,
he had a fantastic game. And even got Cooper called on a couple of offensive pass interference penalties. I thought Eli Apple, even when Dallas did catch the ball, the defenders were right there.
Yeah. And you mentioned Will Lutz. You kind of take it for granted. But, boy, every kick was huge this time. They had a couple of chip shots, but still, the guy you consider money, they needed every point he hit this week.
He has been so consistent, and the best thing about Will Lutz is when he misses one that you think that he would make, boy, he goes on another tear. Yeah. And again, it was a difference in the ball game.
Yeah, sure.
All of our points off of his foot. So
you mentioned the guys on the back end. Talk about the guys up front too. I thought Sheldon Rankins really showed what he means to this team, how much better they look as a unit up front when he's in the ball game. Now you've got Hendrickson playing well. You've got guys up in Onyemata playing well. It really brings some beef up there, and it really starts up front. I mean, I was surprised we only had one sack, but it just felt like there was more pressure throughout
on
the
him
game.
a lot. Look, give credit to Dak Prescott being able to move, throw the ball away, get out of the way, what have you. But the coverage was good throughout. And I thought that we really got the best of their offensive line. And you can talk about our defensive line, and Jason Garrett did in his post-game presser about how the Saints have a bevy of number 1 draft picks on the line, and you do. Yeah. Cam Jordan, Marcus Davenport, Malcolm Brown, and Sheldon Rankins, all first-round draft picks. But the Dallas offensive line has a bunch of first-round draft picks, and that does not include Lyle Collins out of LSU, who would have been a top 12, 15 pick that year if it wasn't for that investigation thing that was going on, which he was exonerated for. Yeah. So that offensive line is among the best, if not the best, in the NFL, and the Saints defensive line got the best of them Sunday night. Yeah.
You mentioned some things to clean up again. The penalties up front, just still a concern. Sean Payton mentioned that again, right? Coming off the field halftime, we've got to get these cleaned up, and we will get them cleaned up.
Yeah, he was emphatic when he said, we will get them cleaned up.
We will get them cleaned up. Again, you look for nitpick things. I think there were some instances, I saw some of the film breakdown again. Teddy Bridgewater, we're going to have a game where we need more out of him.
Sure.
There were some occasions, specifically there was a third down in the red zone. He ran for 7 yards and slid, came up 5 yards on a 3rd and 7, came up short. Looked like you had a tight end breaking up open over the middle. Needs to let the ball fly there, take a shot, and so I think he's playing a little bit conservative. Now, again, you kind of go with the flow of the game where you're at, but he's going to need to step up some in future games.
You hate the famous last words. You'd like to see him take a few more chances.
Yeah, right.
I don't want a guy to become a turnover machine or throw a bunch of interceptions, what have you. But he's got to show the ability to get rid of the ball a little bit quicker when it calls for it, because the gap in the NFL when receivers break open is not long.
Yeah.
It's a tight window, and he's got the ability to do it. Yeah. He does. He has that ability. He's just got to pull the trigger a little bit quicker. All that being said, I'm not going to knock this guy for anything.
2-0,
yeah, 2-0 as a starter, and has been great leading that offense, getting us in the right call. So.
Yeah, and the league is the experts are taking notice too. I saw some of the power rankings. ESPN, both Colin Cowherd had him at number 3 again.
Yeah,
you just can't discount the quality of these last 2 wins they had and how complete a team this is. And something we talked about early in the season too. This something that's not real noticeable or real sexy and make a lot of headlines, but when you add depth to a team, I think that's really starting to show with this team. The guys are stepping up when guys get hurt. You just seem to be a more complete team that can plug in play guys when guys come out.
Well, you talk about the end of the last 2 seasons, both heartbreaking losses for the Saints, and a lot of people are saying, they won't be able to overcome that. But the ones that are saying, yes, they will, are citing this complete full roster as still one of the very best, if not the best in the NFC. So they'll be right there in the mix again. And that's when you go back to seeing the Mickey Loomis, Jeff Ireland, Midas touch on this football team, because it is a quality roster. And you can tell every year when the Saints make cuts now in camp, these guys are getting picked up right away.
Yeah, no doubt. I did think, too, it was interesting. I felt more tense at this game than most, and I think the reason that is we've played a lot of close games in recent years, but usually you sense that Drew Brees is going to get the ball and make it happen late. It's one of the rare occasions where you have to rely on your defense, and it's a situation I think most fans are not used to being in.
Well, with it being a night game and having a full day of tailgating under my belt, I wasn't quite as tense as you. I was very relaxed. Dare I say almost eye shut? No. But, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. It was a situation where I think, a couple of the plays, Bridgewater got sacked and took us out of field goal range. That took us out of field goal range.
Yeah, that was tough.
That was tough to swallow. But the first play of what would have been a Cowboys, attempt at a go-ahead drive or the winning drive, when Onyemata got in and got for that sack, that was it. That dome turned over, man, and it was on from that point out. Yeah. And again, you can't say enough about the defense. They were having a good time and flying all over the field and making plays. So hats off to them.
Looking ahead, it was a strange week in NFL. We'll get into more of that in our audio segment later. But a lot of road wins. Road teams were 11-4 straight up last week, and including one. That's of those, amazing. One of those teams was a surprising Tampa Bay team. As surprising a result we had last week, going on the road to beat the Rams and beating them handily. I mean, they really put it to them.
Beat them up.
Yeah, beat them up pretty good. Dangerous spot for the Saints. I mean, you're coming off a very exciting, high profile win against
a Sunday night
named team against a Dallas team. You come back home, you got a team that's coming in playing well. And think about this, Bruce Arians was brought in to some extent to see if he could reclamate this project of a quarterback, Jameis Winston.
Right.
He was a touchdown and 3 picks in week 1, but since then he's thrown 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And they really should be 3-1, except for a chip shot field goal they missed against the Giants in week number 3. They'd be a 3-1 team.
And you check out the stats on Jameis Winston when he's been blitzed this year.
Yeah,
he wasn't easy to get to from an athletic standpoint, but it was turnover city when you blitzed him in the last few years. Yeah. And now his best stats is 80-something% completion percentage when he gets blitzed, and his touchdowns to interception ratio is you mentioned 8 and 2. It's better than that on the blitz down.
Right.
So the Saints, who like to throw a lot of different looks at you and do come with a lot of safety blitzes, be ready, because I have a feeling the Saints are going to score a lot of points and win this game on Sunday.
Yeah, they should have a lot of motivation, though. Of course, a year ago, this team really put it to us in the Dome, and Mike Evans had a big game. They got some talent. This kid Godwin at wide receiver is really stepping up. So a lot of weapons have to be on their toes for this one. I mentioned a strange week. You had big wins on the road for Philly, Cleveland, Oakland, Carolina, Tampa, and Jacksonville. The Gardner Minshew, the Uncle Rico continues to roll. Yep. Some good matchups this week as well. You got the Rams and Seattle, both 2 3-1 teams playing on Thursday night. Rams coming off of that tough loss. Tampa at Saints, of course. Green Bay at Dallas, 2 3-1 teams on the road. Dallas looking for a rebound there.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers has done very well against the Cowboys when he's played them.
Yes, Chicago and Oakland would be the rematch. With Khalil Mack going back against his old team. Interesting game, Minnesota and the Giants. Minnesota starting to have some finger pointing. Not so happy with this high-priced quarterback. Adam Thielen, a little bit disgusted at this offense that can't really seem to operate when you don't have a running game to complement this guy. And Jacksonville, as I mentioned, going to Carolina. Carolina now 2-2 under their new quarterback, so becoming a factor in this.
Kyle Allen, University of Houston, was a Texas A&M transfer. A&M had signed the top quarterback in the country 2 years in a row, and Kyle Allen and Kyler Murray have both left, and are both now playing in the NFL.
Yeah. Of course, LSU was off last week. There wasn't a lot of surprises in the college ranks, but we did have one game that was a near upset that really kind of affected people's perception, and sometimes in some cases, the power rankings. Clemson against North Carolina last week. Again, North Carolina scores late in that game, decides to go for 2 in the win, and can't convert. So Clemson escapes with a 1-point win, so that kind of shakes things up. So how do you see your top 5, Kyle, in the college ranks?
Well, let me just say real quick too. I don't know. Something's missing with Clemson right now a little bit, and I love the idea to go for 2 at home in a game that you might not match up well in overtime with Clemson. I didn't think the option play call was a great call by Mac Brown, but give credit to North Carolina, easily an outmatched team from a talent and roster standpoint, and went toe for toe with defending national champs for 4 quarters. And,
I'm generally not in favor of going for 2 because it's a tough play to make when the game's on the line. But I'll say this: in this instance, their offense had really stagnated in the second half,
right? And
also, there's a minute or so left in this ball game. So I think if there's 5 seconds left, it's win or lose, right? And the game's over. With a minute left, you can convert that and still get beat because they got a minute to get in field goal range. So I don't really, like you say, it's more the play call than the call.
Yeah, right. If you're going to do it, that's great, but have a better trick in your bag than the one they pulled out. So
top 5, okay.
My top 5 right now, Craig, I'm going to say number 1, by a hair, the Alabama Crimson Tide. I just think with these 3 receivers they have, and Tua Tagovailoa clicking. Again, Najee Harris, one of the most underrated players in the country to me. So I think Alabama can beat you in a lot of different ways. So even their games where they're getting ridiculed, they're winning by 30.
Yeah.
Number 2, this was a tough one. They haven't really played anybody yet, but they haven't given up many points, and they've scored a busload of them.
Yeah.
So until somebody shows me that the Ohio State Buckeyes are not good or have a weakness, I'm going to put them right up there at number 2. And 1, 2, and 3, I went back and forth with all 3 teams. Number 3, I have LSU. This offense has been absolutely unbelievably electric, the best in the country.
Yeah.
Averaging, average 58 points a game.
Crazy.
Just been able to convert at every turn all season, no matter what the situation. Their defense has showed a few chinks in the armor, so and they've got a few guys out hurt. So until they're fully healthy, you can't put them ahead of those other 2 teams, in my opinion. And I wrestled 4 and 5 as well. I'm going to give Clemson the 4 spot based on what they've done last year, and they haven't lost a game yet this year. But I have a feeling that they are puckering a little bit, to say the least.
Yeah.
And number 5 is Georgia, and Georgia's a loaded roster once again, fantastic talent. But I thought they played it really close to the vest against Notre Dame and really didn't let it fly, and that concerns me when they have more big games to come. How are they going to react? So Alabama, Ohio State, LSU, Clemson, Georgia.
Okay, I got the same teams, but in a different order. I'm going to go Alabama number 1, too. I think, Alabama and Clemson, based on the track record the last couple of years, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt until they show otherwise or somebody puts it to them.
Incorrect, but understandable. Go ahead.
I'm going to go Georgia number 2, strictly because what you mentioned, the quality of the win. I mean, they beat Notre Dame. it's a big win for the Bulldogs. Again, not a lot of teams have that quality of victory on their schedule. Ohio State, you mentioned, and it's hard to gauge because I don't think the Big Ten's that strong behind them. Haven't played anybody, but they've looked so impressive in winning. I'm going to drop Clemson back to number 4. I guess it's a big enough drop based on a near loss in that ball game. And I'll put LSU at number 5. Still, again, until we show a little bit more on defense, and I'm convinced it's more a complete team, I'll move them up. But I think, again, we can argue about the order. I think that's most people's top 5.
Yeah, LSU has a Utah State team that should be 4-0. They lost in the last second against Wake Forest in a fluke. Wake Forest, by the way, is ranked 20th in the country. Yeah. They beat the pants off of 3 other teams, and Jordan Love may end up, by draft time in 2020, may end up as the number 1 or number 2 quarterback in the NFL draft next year. He's that good. They're a good football team, and it's a trap game, 11 a.m. kickoff. I don't like it for LSU with Florida looming.
Yeah.
Look, Tigers had a week off to prepare and everything else, but just be careful in Tiger Stadium on Saturday. I'll be there. Utah State is no fluke. They're no pushover.
Yeah, and a big matchup in the SEC, Auburn and Florida, 2 5-0 teams playing at down in the swamp there in Florida. Also, Iowa 14 against Michigan, 19 on the road to Michigan, and then that's a big game from Michigan for Jim Harbaugh. And then Michigan State at Ohio State again. Haven't seen a lot from Michigan State. Somebody's got to play Ohio State tough soon.
Depends on what Michigan State team shows up. I mean, their defense is always pretty salty. Sometimes they're completely stagnant on offense, and other times they get into this rhythm. They're going to have to play their best game to even hang with the Buckeyes right now. It's in Columbus, right?
Yeah.
They're at the Horseshoe, so we'll see. But not a whole lot of talent in that conference. A whole lot of good teams outside of Ohio State and maybe Penn State. So, Michigan's down, Iowa's down. Michigan State needs to show up.
That's right. All right, folks, again, I want to thank our sponsor. That's Brian Scheck, State Farm, for all your insurance needs right there on Causeway Boulevard in Metairie.
Yeah, you want insurance coverage, you go to Brian. You want sports coverage, you come to us, you hear.
That's right. And, of course, to Luca Eats. You get your pregame meal or your catering meal to go.
504-866-1166, 7329 Cone Street, corner of Cone and Lower Line in the heart of Uptown New Orleans.
That's right. It's dog-friendly. I
don't know if it's really the heart, but
it's dog-friendly. You got some shade outside if you want to sit outside.
You want to throw some shade
inside in AC, whatever you want to do.
There you go. Bada-Bing.
All right, we'll get into more detail in our audio segment, so check us out again. Once again, we got a Facebook page. We got the Podbean podcast there, and we also have a subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's right.
YouTube.
ISG Sports. We'll cover it in more detail there. We are
the Italian Sports Guys.
Bada-Boom.
Bada-Bing.